game right since the early days of Wings of Liberty.
I was so happy when I saw Ryung coming back to playing as well. You know, when he left for the military, it was like, we might not see him again, right? He was a player that was trying to do decent in a game, but wasn't at the top of the top. And it's very possible that when they leave, they just don't come back to StarCraft. But he did. He's been doing well. We never expected a playoff performance from him here. Great to see him.
It's so cool to have these surprise stories, these Cinderella runs. We've had them before at Katowice, often just getting through the play-in stage or the open bracket in the previous year's formats was just like insane in of itself. We've almost talked dozens of times about people because they almost made it out of the play-in stage. We're like, they were one round away. They beat like 5 of the best players. But to make it through the group stage as well, when you're obviously playing with such a deep talent pool, an incredible run already, but no time to kind of hang up your hands and say, oh, that's it. We've already got a great achievement. Ryung is going to be opening up there with a command center on the low ground, barracks on the high ground. So he's going to be going for that quick factory. The Reaper. Definitely not something that Ryung or Maru are favoring right now.
Yeah, bypass that. I feel like a lot of the time it's like, yes, it can harass, it can poke across, but so much of the time, what information is there to gain? It's nice to see roaches and stuff, but it's also nice to have that faster factory on the way, some faster Hellions, and, you know, a lot of the time, just more aggression you can apply and potentially some more damage you can do. You see Rogue going all the way to 6 Lings immediately as well, so with this SCV mining out the minerals, they might get a chance to go across the map as well and put a little bit of pressure on.
I do like that. Opening it up, just giving yourself a path right down the middle, so it's just not the extreme angles. You know, the more chances your Hellions have to dive, the more opportunities there is to dive in while those queens are out of position. And already one Hellion does start up, the second gas about to finish. So it looks like whenever I see this, I'm always thinking it's probably going to be that Marine drop that we've seen with a few Hellions behind it. But because the factory can swap over onto the reactor, you can still have a real big amount of Hellion production. And I mean, we've seen this used for battlecruiser openings behind it, a few other things as well. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really cool builds, and I think that's something that's you got to kind of, you know, go into as Ryung here as well, right? Pick a few different builds, come with things that maybe look similar each time, and then hits different a little bit further down the line, get that early lead. And the BC is such a great way to do that as well, right? If you can hide it and then you show up and there's a battlecruiser, it can be scary, and of course the BC can lead into some of that mech, and maybe that's what Ryung will favor here. Right away, this is just going to be a couple Hellions and Reactor and Marine still, so shows 2 Hellions, makes it look a little bit like that factory's on the Reactor, but in reality it's a lot more Marines, and maybe that's where Ryung will find an opening this game.
Yeah, it kind of feels like with the timing that this is a 3rd command center build order, right?
Yeah.
2 Hellions are a bit delayed with that build order because you rush the 3rd CC, so just based on Rogue's very limited information, and I mean very limited it is, it's an Overlord out front and that's it. He might well think that he's up against it, but now Marines and a medevac do come out front. First Overlord will be going down very quickly. And this tells you a few more Zerglings probably going to be needed, and you're going to have to shuffle those Overlords back. So what this does is it kind of pins back the Zerg's vision into a tight little corner. They're not going to have as much vision of where things are coming from. And in the past, we've seen that used for battlecruisers, Liberators. In this case, though, I see a couple of barracks and engineering bay. I don't think there's been a 3rd command center yet.
No, there has not been. Ryung's just going to open up with like a whole ton of aggression, right? He just wants to go and never, ever stop. And just hope he can get enough momentum going that he can just win out from there. He did a similar kind of thing when he played against... Was he in the group with Serral, I feel like?
Oh, the Zergling did try to run in. If that Zergling got vision of the production, it's huge. So we do need to check if Rogue got vision of the barracks inside, but no, he did die just before he got up on that high ground. Very important block by Ryung there. Yeah, we've seen this build order a lot, absolutely, Wardy, as you were saying. So it's been a lot on this map as well. Do you think maybe it's almost too predictable on this map?
It's a funny one, right? Because this map's typically good for Terran. It's short, you know, you've got a good couple of bases you can take. Yeah, the Zerg has left and right, but there's not a ton of bases on the map either, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a bad map for playing longer games on. So it's maybe a bit of a surprise factor. It's like, oh, why are you being so aggressive on this map? Like, yeah, it's short, but it's good for you anyway. So maybe a little bit. I feel like it might be a bit too predictable from Ryung. He's maybe shown, if not this exactly, something akin to it. You know, if Rogue's been doing his homework, he'll say, oh, right, you know, you like to be just very aggressive on this map. Well, I will never overdrawn this time around. I'm just going to play it a little bit on that safe side. And Rogue is in that luxurious position of probably being able to play it a bit safer if he feels he needs to.
Indeed. Well, interestingly, Ryung has got 2 barracks on Tech Labs, but Combat Shields doesn't really get sped up by that because it starts like maybe 5 seconds earlier than it could have, yet that reduces his Marine production by 1. An odd choice. Every Marine matters in this scenario, and this is a 4 barracks, 2 Tech Lab, 2 reactor build. I wonder if we see Marauders added in the near future just to add some tankiness. This is essentially, at this point, a 2-base Marine tank push that has to do big damage. Rogue is up to 57 workers. He's already massing Lings, Banes, Bane Speed, and Evo Chamber. It feels like Rogue knows exactly what is happening. He's not taking any risks. He's just on 4 gas guys. I mean, this is perfect play for Rogue. He's so well set up to crush this push.
Yep, he has everything that he needs to have. With Baneling Speed is going to be done soon as well. Then it's going to be very, very difficult for Ryung to make this work. He's going to need some really good tank shots, but so much of this is usually gaining momentum. With Rogue setting up like this, there might just be no momentum to be gained.
Rogue feels like he expected this to be coming from earlier on, and even with just limited scouting information, he's so prepared for it. The Spore Crawler even shuffles back a little bit. He wants to use that to help zone out the Medivacs. He's just going to wait for Baneling Speed, and it does kick in just 2 seconds. Those Queens may be the first units to go in. Look at that, the Spore Crawler getting transfused. The Medivac goes down to a Spore. Ling Bane flank on the right side. Wardy, we got a big 180 flank.
In we go. Lings and Bane say hello to your Marines as the Medivac lifts up what they can, but Ryung is going to be sent packing. His tanks are gone. He's going to try and reinforce through the middle, but Rogue ain't done yet. He wants to keep on going. Nothing will stop this man till he has no units remaining, and this just goes to show how well set up he was and how ready he was to deal with this aggression, because that from Ryung looked like it wasn't even close to working.
No, I mean, this is a surprise tactic that it has to be for Ryung, but because it's been shown not just by him, but a bunch of the Terrans on this map, in this matchup, in this tournament, you can tell Rogue, he'd studied it. He said, nah, there's a high chance of this. I'm not taking any risks. 57 workers, pump the Ling Bane. And you know what? Even if it turns out it's not that push and you see a 3rd command center float down, you've got a nice Bane Speed timing attack of your own that you can try to swamp in, hit the natural, hit the 3rd at the same time with. But behind it, you can see even as Rogue was engaging, he held the drone key down, dropped a Spire. And it's like, you can tell this is going exactly according to plan.
Yeah, and now he's going to be 70 workers. Muta's in production very soon, so he has that in his favor as well. Ryung is trying to build a 3rd CC. I mean, by the time that morphs into an orbital, lands in position, Rogue is going to be running around the map with Mutas. He's going to be on great upgrades, and he's just going to have a swarm of units everywhere. I mean, he's only not droning up any further right now because he doesn't quite have a 4th base yet, but also does he need to? Ryung doesn't have that 3rd, so Rogue just a game playing it a little bit safe as he defends this initial drop. This game really is in his hands. The only thing he can really do to lose this is to just over-drone, make one attack for Ryung, be that little bit too good, and then maybe Ryung could do something, but he's just not opening that opportunity at all.
Honestly, I mean, you've got to think about it. You want to be a base ahead. You do want to be up in workers. In this situation, as Rogue, you cannot build a worker for like 4 minutes straight and still not be worried about falling behind. You are going to have had such a window of income advantage. Even if Ryung catches up in income, it doesn't really put any urgency on you because it's like, yeah, I mined more than you for 4 minutes straight and a lot more. You're going to need to do a lot to catch up on the military, on the upgrades. The Mutas now to control the drops. That double drop on the north side is looking very threatened. The Mutas are popping out. If that gets caught, that's going to be really bad for Ryung.
Yep, there's Ling Bane here, of course, to force it into the Medivacs. One Medivac is dead before the lift even happens. The left side drop doesn't do much at all. These Medivacs are both going to go down, and obviously Ryung's supply will continue to plummet from here as Rogue is just, well, on the executioner's path at the moment.
Yeah, you know, sometimes it feels almost like Rogue's a puppet master and his opponents are doing exactly what he wants them to. He just kind of is so ready at so many moments, and he's able to just be ready. 4 libs, 4 tanks. Nice little setup there defensively for Ryung. One of the ways I was thinking Rogue could lose is if he doesn't go Mutas. You know, maybe the Liberators get out of control, loses his Queens, and you do the thing where you, even though there's an overwhelming amount of Ling Bane, you just pick up, drop in the main. The Ling Bane overwhelms, you pick the Marines back up, you unload them when the Ling Bane pulls out, and you kind of just win through them not having things that shoot up. But there's Mutalisks out, so that is not a possibility. And Rogue's creep spread is starting to look awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all over the place. As Rogue gets to maxing out, I mean, I imagine he might even start launching a few attacks of his own. Yeah, this doesn't look like a pretty position to attack on into, but he's going to have so much money and just be that far ahead that he realistically could. He might just play it safe as well. Infestation Pit is on the way up, and he will look to tech up a little bit behind whatever he chooses to do here, but I wouldn't hate him just run a few Banes towards the natural, try and hit the 3rd base at the same time. because worst case scenario, he's on 80 drones. He's going to rebuild straight back up off of it.
I mean, I do love that defensive position. Ryung is basically saying, hey, you're probably going to max out and then just want to trade with me.
Yep.
So, hey, check it. You know, Marines, tanks, libs, a planetary on the third, which is just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally like, okay, this is something, you know, everybody out there is always like, why don't you get a planetary on your third base? And it's like, do you know how much income you lose by not having an orbital command center? Well, Ryung knows that, but he's chosen to do it anyway because he knows, well, a fourth base is out of the picture. His whole plan is dig your heels in, dig a trench, stick spikes in it. I don't know, have a can of paint that swings down when you ring the doorbell and smacks him in the face. Like, just set up traps. He's playing Home Alone. Rogue is the bunch of big scary burglars, and Ryung just needs to build the sickest defense of all time. Drag this game out for many minutes until that huge momentum lead that Rogue currently has dissipated.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Because I didn't even notice it was a planetary. You know when you're just like blind because you just totally expect it to be something else? But yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. So, well, so is 44 Banelings on the way, accompany the ones already up and out. Oh, 57 Banelings? Yeah, okay, let's just keep adding a few more. Going to be a pretty disgusting amount of Banes here very soon, and it feels like Rogue might just start to pull the trigger and see if he can bust down as no Ryung.
Oh no, don't move out now. Worst possible timing for Ryung. Rogue is going to catch the planetary and actually, surprisingly, pulls back from that. I really feel like any trade's a good trade for Rogue right now, but he's being a little cautious. And honestly, the fact that Ryung's maxed out, tied up the upgrades, that's incredible. This is a sick maxed out army for Ryung. Doesn't have a lot of Widow Mines in there. The Marine split's going to be very important, but he's got a few Thors, a lot of Libs. And Ryung, I mean, wow. I just, I'm very, very impressed right now.
I'm impressed that he's going to give himself a chance, but the Marine splits need to be more than that as the Mutas go across the map on the counter. Marines come chasing back. I kind of like that Ryung was just making a beeline for the other side of the map, but I understand you got to kind of deal with the Mutas, but every second he waits, it gets worse. There's an Ultra Cavern on the way up. Rogue is getting more and more money off the back of his 82 workers. It felt like Ryung really just had to pull the trigger and go, and as he unsieges here and repositions a few units move forward, not a lot from Rogue, and especially just Bane's kind of into mostly tanks, a Thor too. Maybe not the best, but he's pretty much set to go again, and now he is going to come in from top and left-hand side, so in we roll. The Mutas are coming through as the Thors evacuate. They will start to work their way through the Libs, and the bio that's reinforcing doesn't stand a chance.
There's just so many Banelings, Wardy. Oh, my lord. Beautiful spreadies from Ryung. But when there are so many Banelings, they still end up connecting with a fair few units, and the main thing there is the Mutas cleaned up the Liberators. Of course, they forced back the anti-air, did the Banelings. The Mutas took out every single Liberator, and Rogue, well, his supply has really dipped, Wardy. He is now at only 197 out of 200.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that supply has definitely taken a little bit of a beating, you know. Oh, no, he went back to 199. Could he ever max out properly again? As the Lings come streaming on forward. Yeah, Ryung is in a ton of trouble, obviously, and this first game is all but over as Rogue just comes through looking for the first game of the best of 5. I think very much so kind of what we expected. Ryung came in with something planned, aggression-focused, as Rogue gets the GG. And Rogue just said, well, look, I'm the guy that can, you know, I don't have to take too many risks. I can play it a bit safe. That's fine for me. Great ideas from Ryung, but Rogue was just a little bit too good this first game.
Bit too good, a little bit too prepared, the way he always seems to be. I'm not sure if he can read minds and he's some sort of mutant or what, but he always seems to know what his opponent's going to throw his way. And it played out just the way he wanted there, stopping at the exact right worker count. The upgrades lining up so he could absolutely just squish his opponent's push. And that is Rogue in a nutshell. Always seeing into the future, studying his opponents. I mean, you see build orders out of him that you don't see out of anybody else. And it really is the perfect combination of a guy who can play a very reactive macro game and play a smooth late game style, lots of efficiency. But he also studies his opponents and finds weaknesses and habits as much as someone who's like super cheesy. You know, someone like whose whole thing is, I'm going to find out your habits and take advantage of you. And the blend of those two extremes is what makes Rogue so hard to play against. And perhaps this game one strategy didn't quite work out. It was what Rotterdam was asking for, a bit of aggression from Ryung, but just didn't quite surprise. It needed to have some more maybe disinformation or something, some way of tricking Rogue.
It's just so difficult, right? I think I'm with you. I think Ryung did what I wanted him to do. It's just there's some point at which it's like, what more can you do as well? Oh, it's really difficult. Gonna be intrigued to see what else Ryung has planned for this series, especially now I imagine we're going into one of the Zerg maps. Rogue's map pick after Berlingrad was map number 1, so now the odds are really stacked up against Ryung. Let's see what it is. It's 2K, so actually this is interesting. Not quite a Zerg map, but one that Rogue picks a lot over Hardwire and Glittering early on in the series. Pick takes away.
Up here in the top right-hand side, representing Dragon Phoenix Gaming, it is Rogue. On the road towards his 3rd championship here at Katowice.
In the bottom left-hand side, our Blue Terran player from Team GP, this is Ryung.
Ooh! Oh my
Yes.
lord! Whoa! Dude. Oh my lord, this is the most aggressive proxy barracks. He snuck 2 SCVs behind the expansion. That second one was so close to getting spotted by the drone as well. And he's building 2 barracks literally behind Rogue's base. Oh, this is so dirty.
I love it. Let's go, Ryung. He's got a plan for this series, Pig. His plan might not have worked in game number 1, but you know what? Ramp it up a little bit for game 2. Hell yes.
I mean, those barracks almost form a little wall between them, so you can't even surround the Marines because they can fall back to that choke point. You can fit maybe 5 or 6 Marines in that corner. There's no way you're getting in there with drones. And Rogue, his whole way of defending 2 racks is always to go for the surround with the drones. He loves to shut it down immediately. He is not going to be happy playing from this situation, and he still doesn't even know yet.
Oh, he has no idea. The bunker is building to, well, I mean, that's a full-on house at this point.
It is, and of course if you use your micro well enough, you can pop into the bunker, pop out into that back little pocket. The drone coming down to the natural. Rogue is about to see it for the first time, and oh, he's in for a nasty surprise.
Gets the bunker down just before the creep gets there as well, and the first Marine's already in the bunker. You give this hatchery up, no doubt about it, and Rogue immediately puts down the Rotroran.
I saw him kind of rub his nose there in a little bit of frustration. Drops a Rotron in the second gas, and he is just going to try to break out with Ravagers. So Ryung, though, he's already got a factory on the way at home. The whole thing here is it looks like Rogue is not going to try and even contest keeping the hatchery alive. He's just going to say, look, I'll get Ravagers, Corrosive Bile Outranges, Bunkers. One of the problems here is that it's going to take him a while to break out. I mean, the SCVs are repairing an Overlord popping in the open. He focus fires it, does Ryung.
Oh, no.
He should have unloaded to get that, and he does.
Okay, nice. Gets an Overlord as well as Ryung is going to get this hatchery. The problem with playing Roges against 2 racks is you do get that factory back at home, so the counterattack is not as powerful. It's not as committed as the 3 racks, which then the Roges are even more justified in breaking out and then have a better counter. The hatchery goes down. The bunker will, of course, survive. Even going to get a bit of repair on it as the first Roach about to pop. It'll take a couple of shots to get up to the high ground, and first Ravagers are not far away.
I do like that there was a Zergling that went to the other side of the map to try and interrupt the factory, but it is just building a Hellion for now, and a Marine goes back to clean that one up. The SCV will survive there, turns around, and gives the Ling a taste of the drill. Construction tool also makeshift weapon.
Barracks, of course, will just scout. I mean, at this point, there's not much to scout. You know that Rogue is going to have this Roach Ravager. He comes through, a couple corrosive biles in the SCVs. Oh, cute micro from Ryung, keeping this alive as long as possible. Wants to get the most he can out of this. Now the Marines are going to go running. Only one gets out of there. The SCV goes down too. Here's the lone man to try and tell the tale of the epic 2 racks in the natural.
Wow, there's even a barracks in the main, seeing everything that's going on. So Ryung's going to leave that around as a bit of a follow-up scout. Banshee is building here, which should be able to shut down any Roach or Ravager counter pressure. And that command center halfway finished. Hatchery only just now starting for Rogue.
Yeah, great timing on the expansions in Ryung's favor. He will, of course, know these Ravagers and Roach coming across the map. I almost want Rogue not to. I know it's like, custom to go across and see what you can do, but oh, nice catch to the drone. They're trying to move out as well. Nice Hellion. But yeah, it feels like now maybe this Roach Ravager dies to the Banshee, and maybe you could have kept it alive. He gets across, he sees it, he goes back home, so maybe it doesn't really matter. He's going to get away in plenty of time.
Yeah, I think as long as you run away quickly, that's good. But oh, 2 kills.
Wow.
Almost got a third one there as well. Not to mention, delayed the third. Wait, did that Spore Crawler finish? Did Rogue not cancel the Spore Crawler to save his...
Oh my goodness.
Oh, well, you know what? Rogue comes in as such an overwhelming favorite, and I think Ryung is doing everything Paparotti asked him on the desk in the pre-show. How do you take him down? And he's really giving Rogue every excuse to get a little bit flustered.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm Rogue, I'm so tilted right now. Like, there's nothing going right for me. As we do see this Banshee coming around the right-hand side. Small building in the main to help out with that. Cloak not done just yet. Anyway, he's going to actually back away from the Overlord vision. Wait for two Banshees together and maybe try and approach from a little bit of a surprise direction. The CT moves down to the natural, of course, and Ryung has a worker lead here 5 minutes in against Rogue.
Third gas going to go down on that natural nice and early. That third command center up really quick. I love the barracks blocking the expansion as well. And Rogue, yeah, 31 drones on 2 base. Oof. These are not spots that Zerg players relish. It's all about the minerals. And he's going to go straight mutas on 2 base? Wow, Rogue, 4 gases? A very fascinating choice for him to play super low economy mutas. I mean, he does this sometimes when he's under the gun in Zerg versus Zerg. And with, you know, has made some pretty epic comebacks with heavy mutas there, but I don't know, here against Terran seems a little rough, and especially because we've got extra barracks building. I think against Mech, the mutas are a bit more annoying to deal with, but with a bio player who's already so far ahead, I think Ryung is going to be perfectly happy.
Scouts it immediately as well, so he knows to be prepared, and he'll also know some of the timings he might get from this too, right? When he can attack and the mutas are just popping, really take advantage of them a little bit. Yeah, I love it a lot here for Ryung. He does have Orbital still morphing in, extra barracks engineering base all coming up. He's going to try and fight this queen. He goes for it. He will trade a Banshee for it. As one remains, and we'll sit back and maybe try and grab 1 or 2 more drones a bit further down the line.
Very nice macro for Ryung here. Up 3 workers still. Extra weapon upgrades, stim on the way. Marine and tank production continuing. Extra gases going down as well to continue this growth. And with a 3rd command center up, that's not going to slow down anytime soon. Rogue's Mutalisks are going to need to make magic happen. Remember that he does not have a Baneling Nest. He does not have a 3rd hatchery. Normally, when Mutas come out, we see Zergs bounce back from what looks like hard positions, but that's because they've got hatcheries to actually build drones for. Right now, he's not even fully saturated on his natural expansion. These Mutalisks, like, it is just such an onus he's putting on them doing damage, and it's fascinating because this really is, like I said, a thing that Rogue does. When he gets behind, he will be like, these mutas have to kind of do game-ending damage. I gotta like get in a mineral line, get to another mineral line, bounce around, pick off a tank, pick off another tank. But putting that pressure on those Mutalisks, it does make this equation rather simple. If Ryung's anti-muta defense is on point, he should get a massive, massive advantage.
Sit back, deal with the mutas 1, maybe 2 times. Just go for a big push when your upgrades say that you can.
Oh, yeah.
And that should just be, in theory, game, right? Because Rogue is just playing from such a deficit. But it's Rogue, you know? If you put some mutas in his hands, he can make things happen, which others can't. I mean, there's turrets up and everything. Like, I want to believe it should be a done deal.
Yeah,
but it's Rogue, man.
We talk about Rogue as a strategy genius, as a guy who plans really well, but definitely he's got the control. He does have the mechanics as well, and the ability to know how to use these units. Double Evo Chamber going to go down for him. He's trying to drone that 3rd up, but notice that he's still continually building mutas. So this is what I'm talking about, is if he started massing drones, dropping a 4th hatchery, he could bump up to 60 or 70 workers very quickly, but at no point has Rogue made that decision. He is banking on these mutas doing the work.
You know, it feels like in this position, actually the best thing to do is Ryung is obviously just sit back, right? Because you know, he's got a lead. He's got a worker lead. The economy's good, but it's so scary to sit back against someone like Rogue because you're like, am I not just letting him get back in the game when my opportunity is there? We will stim just a moment too late to go and intercept those mutas on their way back home. Obviously, you can see Ryung just working his way around this left-hand side already, getting on top of some of the creep spread here. Nearly loses a medevac. Rogue already trying to make something happen. But this hatcher on the top side, the 3rd base, is in a heck of a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Widow Mines, Marines, tanks, Baneling Speed just started. A handful of things and Banes being built, and his push is perfect because, I mean, Rogue just does not have the numbers. Mutas are not good frontal fighting units. Combat shields kicking in, very important, plus 10 hit points on all of those Marines now. The Muta's going to struggle to fight that.
Yeah, the 3rd hatch is already dead. Marines keep on moving forward here. The creep spread continues to dissipate, and Ryung gonna even siege up some Widow Mines now, so he continues in. Ravages are building, Banelings are building. Will Rogue be able to clean up even this 1st army? Well, that becomes the question. Reinforcements are almost here from Ryung, and Rogue has not been able to really cut many of those off. He catches a couple Widow Mines, but that's about it, as Ryung continues to step forward.
Oh, the Muta's now finding some more value. Whole bunch of Marines do go down for just one Mutalisk. Ravager does get taken out by a Widow Mine, but a few of these are being cleared up. Rogue is trying to make every unit worth their weight in gold, picking off Widow Mines with Ravagers. The Muta's dancing around from behind, trying to pick off these Marines. He's making it as hard as possible. Ryung is going to need to gather his forces, and I think pulling back from the front is the correct idea. It's a 2-base Zerg. The only way Rogue wins this game is by you taking bad fights into him. And Ryung, wisely, unsieges, pulls back, says, dude, I'm building a 4th command center. I've got my 2-2 on the way. There is no reason for me to force the issue right now. Just before 2-2 kicks in, that'll be a perfect time to fight.
I love that Ryung's just like, you know what, yes, I'm confident enough to play it safe and expand. I've killed your 3rd base off again. You know, surely this should be okay for me to just take a bit more economy and set up.
That's the one time, is it? You kill the natural in the early game and then you kill the 3rd a bit later.
Yeah, it's like the one time you feel comfortable enough to like play macro against Rogue. It's like, okay, I think at this point, I can't possibly make the wrong decision by doing this.
This is the fear that he puts in you, the 2-time Katowice champion on the back foot right now. Zergling backstab comes out desperately. Mutas do join up with it, going to go for it, but it's a pretty big section of Marine Marauder there. Does look like the Mutas are going to get on top. Definitely, a couple Mutas are starting to fall though. Does look like that's a win for now, but, whoa, the Banelings get gunned down. Just a handful of Ravagers and Banelings not able to defend this many units.
Oh, another hatchery going down, and Rogue just surely cannot keep this up. The Mutas coming through, still shutting down reinforcements, and Ryung is having trouble over here. But there's only so many places the Mutas can hit because of the turrets and the mineral lines. This is about all they will have. Now a few more Marines to help push them back. And at this point, Ryung is not stopping on the other side of the map either. He's continuing to press forward. He's removing pretty much every creep tumor from the map. Pre-splitting, pre-sieging. Let's see if it'll be enough to take a fight. The Mutas are coming home to try clean this up.
Those Ravagers, Lings, and Banes trying to buy time. Extra Banelings are morphing in. Great spread against the Biles from Ryung. A Baneling does hit the center of some of those Marines. A few more Banelings coming on forward. This is only a small army at this point. And Rogue, it looks like he will be able to clear up this force.
Of course he does, man. Of course he does. He cleans up this one, but on 2 bases, surely. Ryung rebuilds, goes again. Has a good time. The Mutas, this is where they are great, right? Where they are able to get those counterattacks in, then be part of the cleanup once he's got the support with them. If he can keep on doing that, then maybe there is a chance. It's pretty much the only way he can make this work. Ryung will once again say, cool, I've killed enough bases, going to try and expand to a 4th base again. 8 Marines at a time, 3 Widow Mines at once, and Drilling Claws on the way against what is still a 2-base Zerg, because this hatchery still ain't long for this world.
These Mutas coming up, 2 Mutas, 2 Ravagers, and a Zergling. I'm not quite sure that qualifies as an army, Wardy. A handful more Mutas and Banelings do come along, but the Marines will spread, and every Baneling that goes down here will not be able to come back to life.
Well, the spread wasn't brilliant. I think Ryung kind of got a little bit flustered there on the engagement. I feel like that could have been a lot simpler. He does now have some reinforcements coming through, joining up with everything else. Has a couple of burrowed Banelings on their way back into this game, but Ryung will avoid them for the moment, but there are more further up, and Ryung will avoid those ones too for now.
Oh my lord, oh my lord. If those burrowed Banelings can get a massive hit, just maybe, it could be the lifeline that Rogue needs back into this series. Mutalisk does go down to the Widowmine. Marines coming on forward. They may pull back into the burrowed Banelings, but it looks like with some Biles, Rogue realizes I can't break out. Ryung tying up the series 1-1.
Let's go, Ryung. What a game, right? Completely what you don't expect. You know, barracks in the natural. Just everything, right? It was just a crazy situation. He plays it nicely on the follow-up to that. You know, he gets the Banshee, he's safe, he gets some decent harass off of it. Obviously, Rogue is in a bit of a corner. He builds those Mutas, and that's not exactly ideal. But, man, Ryung played the situation great. Rogue tried his best with those Mutas. Just was not enough. And Ryung is in this series, man.
Indeed. Perfect planning there. But that is a once-and-done trick. The barracks in the back of the natural. You're not going to be pulling that one off again in this series. Definitely something, though, which is brutal to be playing against as Rogue. I mean, when you spot barracks in your natural with the bunker almost finished, you go, I just wish I pathed my Overlord a bit different, don't you?
Yeah.
Wish I went in and checked behind that expansion, because that would have given him the warning, pulling the drones down and shutting it down. But a big risk pays off for Ryung and finds himself tied up. He's done a couple of very aggressive plays so far. And based on the next map, it may be time to slow things down a little bit and show us some of that mid to late game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It would be cool if he can. It's just so scary to do that against Rogue, right? Let's see what he has planned. He definitely has a plan for every game so far. One thing I will say is he's had Berlingrad. Now we've played 2K. Further down the line, those Zerg maps that are typically much more Zerg friendly are still to come. We got cut off by, you know, the proxy racks coming down. But Rogue does like to pick 2K atmospheres early, and like I say, that leaves the better maps for him until later in the series.
Yeah.
So they are still to come. Ryung is going to have a lot of plans as this continues. Interested to see whether we get Curious Minds or Blackburn for map 3.
Of course, remember that Rogue is one of the greatest players of all time when it comes especially to best of 5 and above series. He was undefeated in best of 7s for so many years.
Yeah.
It was actually just this insane record that nobody else had. Best of 5s, he barely ever lost one. He'd drop like a series every 9 months or something, if even that. And he is just an absolute monster. An obstacle to be overcome for all of the opponents in this tournament. If you want to hold up the trophy, you've got to beat this guy. In the bottom left-hand side, in the red, representing Dragon Phoenix Gaming, this is Rogue.
And I will take it back hardwire for map 3. A little surprised by the order, but you know what? Let's see if we can do it in the top right corner. Tying the series, Team GP is Ryung.
Couple years without live events, Wardy, and you realize the kind of group consciousness of the Europeans and the Koreans, I think, you know, goes different ways on the map sometimes, and who knows, it could just be a Rogue special, to be fair, in terms of the map preferences. But it's always interesting when you're like, this is definitely a Zerg map, that one's definitely a Terran map, and you come across these top-tier players who just completely disagree, and like, no, that's my map, and you're like, oh, really? But they go, no, I just have a really sick win rate on it. I like the way it plays. Sometimes they can explain it in detailed, specific reasons. Other times they go, it just feels good.
It just feels good.
You watch them play and you go, yeah, it does feel good to win as much as you do. I bet it feels good, mate.
I'll tell you what, we've got a bit more of a normal start this time. There's no barracks out of the map, just one back at home. Ryung yet to just take us into, like you say, that kind of more macro-focused 3cc kind of build that is oh so common in TVZ. Once again, here we'll open with a Marine and not a Reaper, so that will speed up the progress towards his factory, and that will come down a little earlier than usual.
It's been a 2-base all-in, essentially, in game 1. Proxy barracks into some rather aggressive following-up play. In game number 2, it's best of 5. You've got to win 3 games. And definitely, I think it is the sort of thing where you go into it knowing, I really do need to be able to win a game that starts up, you know, a bit more standard into 3-base. You can still, of course, throw curveballs from there. You can have very specific timing attacks, things like the 8 barracks all in with just 1 tank pumping out at a time and a ridiculous number of Marines. But you've got to be able to bring in this range because it makes it very hard for your opponent to just simplify what they're playing against. So far, Rogue has seen 2 very aggressive plays. If you now come out with something that's maybe on the greedy end of the spectrum, it definitely has that chance to catch him off guard.
Lings is gonna take control in the corner. Again, 6 Lings just playing it safe, right? Just every time says, don't want to take any risks, just want to make sure I'm as okay as I can be. Again, that kind of luxury of being the favored player, you know? Play a little bit safer, little edges don't mean as much in games like this. At least that's the theory.
Indeed. Well, the Marines, I mean, you know, it's kind of funny when you build 6 Zerglings, because I've always been questioning it. Just like, even if there is a Reaper, it feels like too many.
Yeah.
But to be building so many Zerglings this game, in fact, I mean, that's crazy. How many was it? It was 6. Okay, 6 Zerglings, no Reaper. That seems very unnecessary. I feel like you can see the Reaper coming across with the Overlord and then build Zerglings reactively, but interesting to see Rogue there playing so safe and now going
super fast lair, 2 base lair.
Wow. I think it was... Ooh, I think he did do a Nidus Roach Queen all-in the group stage. Brought one of those out, but the Mutas in the last game looked like something he was really enjoying playing from far behind, so you got to guess. Right now, Wardy, lock it in. Mutas or Nidus?
Oh, I'm going to say he Niduses, but there's a fusion core going down from Ryung. And that's going to be fun as well. Baneless goes down.
I didn't lock mine in time, so I don't get to guess because obviously I got the tells there. Yeah, it looks like it will be. So I mean, 2-base Muta can be pretty decent if the battlecruiser teleports in and dies, right, to some Mutas. But it's one of those things which, if the battlecruiser kind of just defends and the mech player builds up, you aren't in a great economic position necessarily. So it's really about which player is going to overextend and throw away some units, because that can put you far behind. But otherwise, Battlecruiser is just a big mobile anti-mutalisk platform. It's not the quickest at killing them, but it will do the job.
Did Ryung just see the leather with the zoom in? He did, so he knows it's a very early lair. I mean, he obviously knows there's no third hatchery as well, right? So he's aware roughly of what's going on now. He'll narrow it down to a couple of things. If this was Nidus, BC is actually pretty darn good at playing defense against that, so he probably doesn't worry there. Like you said, BC against, mutas are kind of nice as well. So set up neat and tidy for Ryung. He starts his own third CC, so obviously no fear of like a super aggressive play. Feels like he can still get that down, finish that wall off. In fact, he's even seen the Spire, so he knows exactly what's going on.
It's going to be interesting because it's such a quick battle cruiser with a bit of a slower command center, but you're up against a slower hatchery, and indeed, extra barracks going down. So it is going to be bio play as the follow-up. A lot of people prefer bio mine versus mutas, but I mean, we saw in that last game how annoying those mutalisks can be. And Rogue is not going to be playing for massively behind this time. Doesn't have the big, massive economy lead that he would love to, but it's still a solid 2-base muta. 7 mutas powering up immediately.
Yep, 7 mutas. The BC is going to finish, and let's see exactly what Ryung will do. It gets scouted. In this case, you just can't teleport across the map, because if you teleport across the map, you might get a little bit of pressure out, but then this BC is a goner, because the mutas will show up, they will work it down, and there's just nowhere to hide until the teleport is back. So the BC probably has to stick around a bit more defensively, and in a weird way, Rogue's opening kind of nullifies the opening of Ryung, but then of course Ryung still has the BC defensively. And it's definitely a funky one as we go straight into bio upgrades. Stim pack, like you mentioned, this bio play is going to be what Ryung follows up with, and I do like that a lot against the mutas. I think that is going to put you in a great spot because it allows you to be more aggressive, faster on the follow-up, and against the muta stars, that can be very good sometimes.
Unlike in that last game where he was desperate to do damage, notice he's kind of intermittently building mutas, but mostly he's droning right now. He's adding the upgrades, he's getting everything set up for more of a macro game. Of course, Rogue still being a nuisance here, gets a few Marines doing some damage, and just chipping away at whatever he can. Any exposed angle is going to be something where he's looking to find damage. Good trades. Remember, Mutalisks have enhanced regeneration compared to other Zerg units, so they do very quickly heal up after combat.
You just want to go back into the main. BC fires a shot, a few Marines underneath it, and these couple of depots taking some hits as well. One Marine going down already. And is just happy to sit here and just try and pick up some damage. Ryung, of course, should be able to repair up those depots, though. He is going to start to move out to his third base, and yeah, Rogue only 8 workers ahead, so it's not crazy. Ryung hasn't had to go across and do much damage just yet. And as 1-1 finishes up and Combat Chill comes through, he's going to have quite a while where he's going to be able to have that 1-1 versus 0-0, potentially take a few fights.
Indeed, that's the advantage you get. If you're playing bio versus mutas, they might be able to pin you back for a while, get some good creep spread, but guess what? You've got those much faster upgrades. The trick is going to be... Ooh, nice Widow Mine. The trick is always going to be making sure that they don't catch you out of position as you're trying to push, because the Zerg is going to be very aware of this. And I think what Rogue will do is to say, oh, you're pushing me? Bam, Ling backstab. Mutas will dive in. And if he can pull you home 30 seconds, 60 seconds, oh, guess what? We're at the same upgrades now, and you don't get to actually use the advantage. The upgrade advantage, if you don't fight during those windows, it's worth absolutely nothing.
Well, the mutas are back into the center, still not able to really find too much. A couple of Banes get found over here, though. It's a nice little find from Ryung. Shut those down before they become a problem. Good play from him, just scouting around the map. And, well, Combat Shields is done. How much do we want to move forward here? Well, he tries to, but the mutas are there to intercept the Hellions, which get ahead of everything else. Picks off one. I think the BC is just sneaking away, just getting down to the bottom side. Doesn't use its teleport to get there, so it has to teleport back home. Preserve that unit. Use it as a harassing force throughout the game. It's a really great little harassment tool.
Mutas really controlling it well. The creep spread's now hitting the 50% point of the map, the halfway point. Burrow on the way as well. Rogue wants to be adding those Banelings in. He has not been very greedy, Rogue. He's only up about 10 workers, but he's got a good standing army. Banelings morphing. 1-1 upgrades have almost finished. We talked about fighting during those moments where your upgrades are ahead. Well, Banelings set off the Widow Mines, and now 1-1 going to be ready in just 10 seconds. So Rogue getting past this first scary moment in the game.
Yep. I'm going to get through with that without much issue at all. The BC went home pretty quickly, and Ryung was never really seeming like he wanted to push any further than the first creep tumor or so. Get rid of that and then just back it up. So continue to rally his units out to the third base. A fourth base building. This really does have a much more of a kind of a macro twinge to it than the previous games, of course, as we stimmed down the left, and Rogue didn't realize these units were still over here, so we'll lose a couple more creep tumors. Ling Bane has to respond on the fly. And once again, Ryung just very content to take down active tumors.
Yep, just trying to make sure his army doesn't get caught. Mutalisks would love you to overstep on creep and let him clear up these units, but Ryung denying that for now. Thor's being added in, drilling claws. His 2-2 upgrades are about to finish. And for Ryung, the question is, how confident are you taking the trade to Rogue on his side of the map? Because we always talk about how ideally you get these last 3 barracks. In this case, it's 2 building. You get tech labs on them. You add Marauders in to kind of just be the icing on top of the cake that is the Terran composition. A few Thors, and then you just split push and you try to create trades all over the map. The scary thing is Rogue doesn't sit back and fight you where you want to fight. He runs around with the mutas, gets in there just before these turrets are ready. This is very annoying. Zergling's going to start to run in as well. Could bring some Widowmine friendly fire into those workers.
Yeah, could have done nice on Burrow on the mines as the mutas are in the main base. The Beast's in a little bit of trouble. Rogue is going to dive for it, and he will get rid of the battle cruiser. Remove that threat from the game, at least as Ryung runs around trying to clean this out. Clean this up. 10 new mutas on the way, so Rogue really wants to double down on a lot more mutas. Just really control the game with them.
3-3 upgrades are on the way for Ryung, and those 3 extra barracks should be continuing to build now. So that icing on top of the cake we were talking about, it's been delayed. The tanky units being added in, and if Rogue can get that hive up, well, I'm pretty sure we're going to see an Ultra Cavern very soon. Could see a Great Aspire as well, potentially for Broodlords, but Ultras is going to be the most accessible unit, as well as, of course, those 3-3 upgrades and Adrenal Glands. Ooh, Widowmine's defending a big Baneling run by there. Very efficient defense by Ryung.
Yeah, not allowing those in, not taking too much SCV or too many SCV losses. Rogue not in the craziest of worker counts, right? 80 is nice, but it's not like super out of this world. It is quite army heavy, and like I say, with a lot of the mutas as well. He is teching up, the Elders on the way as this round of Baneling's going to finish, but Ryung is very prepared if they had gone straight in. Instead, they run south, so for the moment, not a threat. The mutas are a big threat, though. They continue to come back in, and removing the tech labs on those barracks, that means Marauder production is slowed down, increases the value of these incoming Ultralisks. So that's really nice as we attempt to go into the Ghost Academy too, and that's another reason you want those tech labs on the barracks.
Oh, this is so annoying for Ryung. And oh no, the Baneling run by in the natural. It goes around his army on the left side, and it finds a bunch of those workers. Wow. 25 workers going down, a lot more damage. And look at that, Widowmines into the SCV line. Zerglings are basically free at this point. Rogue starting to find the trade, starting to pick Ryung apart. The mutas, the Zerglings, and the Banelings running around from all sides. Thor's having to be ferried across the buildings. Ryung has walled himself in his main base a little bit, and that's making it even more awkward for him to defend.
I mean, this is just the power of Rogue. He goes one way, then he goes the other, and he is just playing at a different pace to Ryung at the moment. Ryung cannot keep up with all of this aggression from the mutas in the main to the Banelings over here. We do not get the Widowmine shots you're looking for, and so the Banes can continue through for as many Marines as possible. 57 dead SCVs, and this has fallen apart in an instant. Ryung barely above 100 supply, and the mutas are still working their way through anything and everything. Widowmines are found. These few Lings are getting some extra kills. He scans the main base, he sees the hive, he sees the Ultra Cavern, and that is the GG scan. Just double checks he is dead in this game, and Rogue will retake the lead in the series.
Just too many Zerg on the dance floor in that game. Great control with the Mutalisk play, and I think we get a big indication of what his comfort zone is. He does not want to play a sitting back style, a lurker style. He wants to get the mutas, grab control, and just dictate where and how the game goes. Ryung unable to really get to the other side of the map at any point in that game. Shut out, and it may be a return to proxy barracks and sneaky tricks in game number 4.
Yeah, the long game. I never thought the long game is where we wanted to see Ryung, and this wasn't it as well. And it felt like such a good opening, BC versus the mutas and everything. I liked it, you know, I felt like it put him in a good position, but once Rogue gets set, he can just go, and just not stop. And that is obviously absolutely terrifying. As the 2-1 lead is his, he's one map away from the round of 8, of course. That matchup against Bunny, waiting for the winner of this series. Should be a good one later on today as Ryung readies himself to try and tie this series up for a second time. Think about what build he wants to try and bring out here. I don't really know what you do, actually. Like, it's so tough, and I know he's probably had time to plan it and figure it out, but yeah, it feels like you need something as wild as what he did on 2000 Atmospheres, but only so many of those builds exist.
Call up Coach Gumiho, get him in here. We need a creative Terran genius to come up with something special, but no, he's got a lot of build orders, does Ryung, and that last game didn't quite go the way he wanted, and I really do think things looked like they were going quite okay, but it's very fragile because of your lack of vision as the Terran in that scenario. You're kind of on edge the whole time going, is he going to flood in? You know, what's he going to do? And I think when those mutas flew into the main base, trying to build 4 more turrets just at that moment. If he got those turrets up, maybe left a Thor or a pack of Marines in the main base, that would have changed it, because it was the moment the Mutas got inside the main base, delayed the barracks, they came back a short while later, and then again and again, that's where Ryung was disrupted and taken down. So we're going to see if he changes things up in this next game and finds a way, if he does return to the same style, to get a different outcome.
Let's see if he can do it. Rogue looking for another Katowice quarterfinal. Ryung looking for upsets. 4th map of this best of 5, moments away as we load on into Blackburn. And we're going to start down to the bottom left-hand corner in the red, and in the lead of this series, Dragon Phoenix Gaming's Rogue.
And his opponent, the underdog, the challenger. He's made a good account of himself so far, but he's going to need to win the next 2 in a row. It is team's GP's Ryung.
Well, Blackburn was one of those maps which I always had an argument about. It's a Terran map. Oh, the Terran's like, no, it's not. Of course it isn't. Rogue obviously loves the roaches on this map a lot of the time as he goes for that 16 hatch.
Dude. Where is Ryung's SCV going?
No.
Command Center first on the gold? Are you actually out of your mind? Command Center first on the gold? That is sick. I don't know what this turns into, but this is going to be absolutely insane. I have never seen this before, but Ryung going straight for the gold base. Is it Mass Marine? Does he try to get Hellions up and cover it? I feel like to defend this, you're going to need to get offensive. And I think maybe a Mass Barracks play could get that done.
Yeah, just like racks. Just get as many units out as possible. Play something a little bit offbeat. Kind of what you need. Tell you what, Pig, back in the day, pre-on terraces, I like to CC first on the gold. You know what? It had 2 gold bases. Sometimes I went double CC first. It was terrible.
Why even CC first? Just lift it down, mate. On those maps.
I remember back when it first released, it was just a gold in your main. How beautiful was that?
Oof. Yep, I'm sure the Zerg players and the Protoss players definitely would be a bit annoyed at Terran getting that one in the main base, but look at this. Rogue goes and scouts for, apparently, I mean, the Koreans, I've said a lot of players, even Terrans, have been rushing gold bases on this map, on Pride of Altaris. And here we go. It's spotted by Rogue. Now, what is the response is the big question. I love that he pulls that Overlord back without it getting spotted. So Ryung does not know this command center is being spotted just yet.
Yeah, it's a tough one because it feels as though, okay, he's going to pull out of gas for now and just start link speed. He's going to make extra lings, right? So he is wanting to put pressure on. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, the big question is, can you defend somewhere like this as Ryung? You know, if you can, brilliant, but it should in theory be tough. And even if the link flood don't do it, some sort of roach follow-up on the back end might be very scary as well. More and more lings on the way from Rogue. He is going to flood this base, absolutely. He just saw it so early with that Overlord Scout.
Yeah, there's a Reaper on the way out, but how do you cover all this space with that Reaper? He's going straight to the top left. Ryung might have a sixth sense about how Rogue likes to counter gold bases, but no, he does snake down towards the south side again. And we'll continue forward. Factory and Reactor are on the way in the main base a while till Hellions ready. Spots the Lings! Spots a pack of the Zerglings leaving the base. A very important scout here for Ryung. Rogue has already committed to a massive number of Zerglings, but the Reaper going to start picking them off, and most importantly, going to give him a heads up.
The only good news there so far for Rogue, I suppose, is that only 6 were seen, but now you see the next one over here, right? It starts to become a little bit like, oh, how many Lings have you made? Link speed is just a few seconds away. The ones from the top left already heading across. And now we're going to have all of these Lings striking very soon. Only 20 drones in the game from Rogue, who truly believes he can end the game or do game-ending damage with this. The gold base is not safe. There is nothing to defend it. What is the plan, Ryung? Run the SCVs? Yeah, I mean, run.
Yeah, they've got to get out of there. And if he can save even a few, maybe, just maybe, because he's still up in workers. And he does have a wall off up. Whoa! No! Ryung! He let the wall down to try and save the lads. You needed to lock them out. Rogue with the link flood. Killer Instinct says, no cheeky gold base for you. And shuts that one down. And he continues on his path towards his third Katowice championship. What a beast.